Hello and welcome to IABM TV. Today I'm joined by David Phillips, Principal Architect, M&E Solutions at Cloudian. David, welcome to IABM TV.
Thanks, Ben.
So, David, let's talk object storage for the M&E workflow. How do Cloudian help with this?
Yeah, so, traditionally, I think, Cloudian being an object storage platform has fit into that active archive space. So companies that were looking to replace their legacy LTO-based tape libraries with, an object storage solution, get better speed to archive, better speeds for retrieval of assets, and also greater searchability across the entire active archive. So we've traditionally fit into that, secondary storage active archive, role in media and entertainment organizations, media and entertainment workflows. What we found, and especially, of course, over the last, weeks and months, is that, people are starting to see, it's like, okay, I have this object storage platform that is, scalable, but and most importantly, it's addressable over the wide area network, unlike traditional SAN and NAS solutions that, you have to connect over a VPN, which these days VPN connections for an organization are, very crowded and kind of bandwidth constrained. So instead of having to try to mount my NAS locally, I'm working at home, I can connect into my central active archive, my central repository for my media library, and browse and search assets and then pull any assets locally that I need to work on. So, it's starting to that kind of file sync and share applications, kind of remote editing, remote workers, is what we're starting to see a lot more activity with.
So, David, scalability must be really important. So how are Cloudian helping your customers with scalability?
So that's another important point is that, customers are finding that, with traditional kind of, say their data centers kind of locked down and, they can't access their tape libraries if they have mechanical failures or that, they have to load tapes. Having something that they can kind of administer remotely, is very important. And then scalability comes into play in that we are a true software-defined scale-out storage platform. So it's situations where, like we have all this, new media coming in, we have new projects, more, increased frame sizes, 4K, 6K, et cetera. We're running out of capacity and we need to scale our system. Being a true scale-up platform, customers have a lot of flexibility is that they can add, as many as 1 to 2 nodes at a time that gets added to the cluster and increases their available capacity. So that flexibility of being able to scale in variable increments, I don't have to kind of add a whole second rack. I can just add 1 node at a time, and then next year, once disk prices comes down, and there's better price performance, better bang for the buck for higher capacity drives, they can add nodes, as year to year in order to get the best price, at the for the current pricing, but still easily scale and maintain a single namespace.
And so scalability leads us on to the economics of object storage. So can you talk us through how you're helping with this?
So when we talk about economics, a lot of times the conversation, because we are an object storage platform, it's immediately compared to the kind of economics of a hosted managed service like the public cloud services like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and even things like Dropbox. So these hosted storage as a service services, traditionally, it's a consumption model, paying a monthly fee based on capacity. So even we are a on-prem solution, in your data center. It's a software-defined storage, but most customers buy our appliances where we bundle commodity hardware, sell it as a bundled solution of a commodity hardware storage servers with our software stack installed and configured on top. So when we do an apples to apples comparison of if you kind of break down, like say a 5-year total cost of ownership of purchasing on-prem object storage like Cloudian versus essentially consuming storage as a service, we can really come in at a price at scale, at petabyte scale. We can come in at a price that's lower than the least expensive tier. Let's say the cold deep archives like an Amazon Glacier. We can come in at a price lower than that, on a total 5-year total cost of ownership. So when media companies that own content and they're storing that content for the long term, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, essentially those storage as a service consumption models, we can offer a much better cost economics than over those longer periods.
And so obviously your customers must be very worried about cybersecurity. And so talk us through ransomware and data protection.
Ransomware and data protection has been, something that we've really been focused on in the last, 6 to 9 months. We've done our development team has done a lot of work on releasing our S3 object lock functionality with our latest version of HyperStore. So we've been partnering with traditional IT backup, vendors like Veeam, to roll this out to customers because there's such a huge demand in the market for ransomware protection, because the ransomware protection, the ransomware attacks are increasing at such a rate and becoming so pervasive, across all different, organizations, from state and local governments, but, media and entertainment companies are no different. So this, there's a real demand in the market for, I need to be, protected, here's my valuable assets of all my kind of media library. I need to, this is my revenue generating media library and content. I need to protect to be protected against this. And S3 object lock, we also support essentially what would be considered worm or write once, read many, where these objects, as these assets are written onto the Cloudian HyperStore platform, they are immutable, and there's no hack or ransomware encryption attack that can modify these files. They're protected.
Okay, so with the vast amount of content that's now coming out there, it must be really important for people to be able to find this content easily. So how did Cloudian help with metadata capabilities?
Metadata, is becoming so important, for media organizations because, number one, there's so many more services that allow you to kind of automatically tag and index your media assets. What traditionally had been a manual process of, human loggers, kind of logging, footage and adding certain, metadata values like, who are the principals, in the scenes, and then in the footage, what's all the different kind of project-based metadata. All of that was kind of a human-based entry, and still is to a large extent, but AI and machine learning allowing to extend that to an entire legacy archive, like a news or sports archive that spans, decades. Being able to go through and automatically, tag that for facial recognition, image recognition, logos, and kind of brand trademark recognition, and additionally speech transcription. Which traditionally speech transcription being a manual human transcription process, being able to automate that, where I can inexpensively using cloud services or local services. Automatically transcribe, hours and hours of this footage to really understand what's in my library. So Cloudian supports these, kind of services and these efforts by the media organizations to really catalog and index their legacy media archives by being able to store much of that metadata in the object header, in the S3 metadata header. So this self-contained portable media asset becomes, everywhere this asset goes, all of this rich metadata, it goes along with it. So be it that it's tiered to the public cloud, we write native S3 objects. So when they're tiered to Amazon bucket, all of that metadata goes with it. So it becomes this essentially, we still rely, we partner with a lot of MAM vendors, to kind of also, to enable browsing and searching and viewing all of this rich metadata. But, there's a certain aspect of, once you kind of can embed all of your rich custom metadata in the media asset object, you essentially gain a little bit of MAM independence, and that everywhere that object goes, you can essentially query the metadata to, like, what is this file and what's contained in it, and who are the principals in it, and what are the celebrities or talent.
Yeah. Okay. And so, David, talk us through Cloudian Extreme.
So we launched Extreme last year, and we've really gained a lot of interest in this platform because it is the it's really one of the highest density object storage platforms, private object storage platforms on the market. We've had customer conversations where they're like, data rack footprint, data center footprint is very expensive, and we have an initiative to kind of consolidate all of our infrastructure and try to achieve the greatest rack density possible. And for our kind of secondary storage active archive, we need to hit 10 petabytes in a single rack space. And the HyperStore Extreme is one of the few solutions on the market that can achieve that density. So we've partnered with Seagate on this. So it's a Seagate disk enclosure that hosts 2 independent storage CPU nodes. This provides 96 drives for user data. So it hosts flash SSDs for the storage servers, operating system, and the database. 96 high capacity drives. Currently, we're shipping the HyperStore Extreme with 16 terabyte drives, validated with 16 terabyte Seagate drives, validated by them for this platform. So it's a unique proposition in the market, and as organizations try to really kind of consolidate their infrastructure, we're getting a lot of interest in this platform.
Okay, well, David, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Ben.
You can find out more about everything we've discussed with David today at Cloudian.com.